Hey guys, MetalJesus here. Now I've been playing with the PlayStation 5 for a while now, and it's always very exciting when a new gaming generation starts because you're playing the latest and the greatest. And it's been awesome. However, every time this happens, I always get a little bit nostalgic and look back and start thinking, man, it would be really cool if Sony would help bring along some older gaming franchises to the new generation, to the new hardware. And so that's what this video is going to be. Me digging through my game collection, finding some game franchises that, have been on PlayStation consoles of the past, but we haven't seen them in a while, and it would be really cool if Sony would help bring them back. Let's take a look. The first one I want to start with is the Jet Moto series. I've been in love with these games since I first played them on the PlayStation 1. You see the first and the second one here. And if you're not familiar with this series, well, basically it's a futuristic racing game series that is really unlike any others out there. It has its own vibe. So in this game, you control a futuristic hovercraft that allows you to race over land and water, and often in the same level. And so that's kind of what it sets it apart from some of the other, kind of wave race like games out there. And it's pretty cool. And one of the things I like about this game is that you have a magnetic grapple device that when you hit the circle button on the controller and you're near a pole, well, it's going to slingshot you around it, basically gaining an advantage in cornering and also getting a little bit of a speed boost. Now, it's pretty tough to master, but it's really satisfying when you pull it off. Now, I know these games look pretty rough and dated, but they're still pretty fun to play today. And just imagine what they would look like if they were completely remade for the modern PlayStation 5 console with better graphics and obviously a better frame rate. Man, I think it would be epic. Another gaming franchise that I really enjoyed playing on the PlayStation 1 is the Bushido Blade series. You see the first and second game here. Now, what makes these games really cool is that they're a very unique 3D fighting game. And essentially what's going on here, if you look at the footage, notice that there's no time limit and no health bar. Well, that's because this game is attempting to be fairly realistic in its sort of one-on-one sword fighting. And so basically it's you and the opponent, and every strike, every counter strike, every move you make can basically mean the difference between life and death. And I love how damage is implemented in this game. You have to be very careful because it just takes a well-placed smack on the arm or the leg to cripple your opponent or you, if you screw up. And then you're forced to fight one-handed, or if it hits you in the leg, as you see here with this footage, you have to crawl towards each other. It's brutal. It definitely requires a more methodical approach to the fighting genre, and it's one that I definitely appreciate. You don't really see it that often, and I'm sure other fighting games have come along that have added parts of it, made it a little bit more realistic like this game, but I always appreciated just how brutal and, again, how methodical this game is. You really have to take your time with this game. You have to be very intentional with your hits. It's pretty cool. And again, just imagine what more powerful hardware would do with something like this. It would look and play awesome. So I'd love to see it just get resurrected for the PlayStation 5. Next up is a series that I have talked about for many years on my channel, and I'm going to do it again today because it deserves to get the big comeback. That, of course, is the SOCOM series. Now, there's a reason why gamers like me look back on this series with a lot of fondness, and that's because they were extremely well-made, super fun, tactical shooting games that at the time were unlike anything else on the market. They were very realistic. Again, kind of getting back to Bushido Blade, they're also very methodical in how you go through a level and how you complete your mission objectives. And they were so intense and so satisfying when you did it. Now, I know the Rainbow Six series has come along and kind of picked up the mantle in some regards when it comes to these types of games. But I like how this one was in third person, and it really worked well when, you know, playing with this computer-controlled AI squad. And speaking of the squad, one of the things I really loved about the series was just how smart the AI was in these games. It was game-changing, literally, when these games were released, because, you know, in a lot of other games, the computer AI would just be completely brain dead. The people that are supposed to be on your side, you couldn't really trust. But I loved how you could issue orders in this game, and they would actually do it, and they were pretty effective. And sadly, this series kind of petered out on the PlayStation 3, and it's a real shame. I think that there is a place for this series. I think it'd be really cool to get it brought back to the PlayStation 5. Even if they just went back and did a remake of SOCOM 2 and did it properly and kept all the things that were great about it, but just updated the graphics and maybe changed, you know, some of the things here and there, but didn't mess with it too much. I think a lot of fans like me would love to go back and experience this on the PS5. I think it'd be amazing. Next up is a much beloved PlayStation 2 platforming series that was extremely successful, and that of course is Jak and Daxter. Now, developer Naughty Dog has obviously gone on to some great things. They've created some absolute masterpieces, but there is a part of me that misses the Jak and Daxter series. It was such a great platforming series. Not just the gameplay, not just the graphics, but honestly, the characters, the design. I absolutely loved it. And so for this video, I'm going back and playing the Jak and Daxter collection that they put out on the PlayStation 3. It's a really great collection of the first 3 games. And, you know, it's a nice trip back. I was actually capturing the footage for this video and playing through the first hour or so, because I hadn't gone back and played it since it came out on the PS2. And I gotta tell you, man, the first game is just an absolute masterpiece. It still holds up today. There's something magical about that game. I love the characters, I love the humor, the platforming, everything is just so good. So it'd be very cool to see Naughty Dog or Sony just bring it back in some fashion, again, for modern consoles. I think that there's an audience for it, and I'd certainly jump at the chance to get it. And then Motorstorm. So Motorstorm was a arcade racing franchise that launched with the PlayStation 3, and at the time it really showed the power of the PlayStation 3. It was very impressive, and to be quite honest, it still is really impressive. You're seeing gameplay footage here. It's just so much fun. And so as you can see here, it is I think it's kind of like a pseudo-futuristic arcade racing game. It kind of reminds me at times of sort of like Mad Max, but I don't know if it's necessarily flushed out quite like that, but that's kind of the vibe that you get here. And depending on the game, will change the environment greatly, actually, because you know you'll be racing in deserts, but then also you can be racing along a beach. There's some great levels in Pacific Rift where you are racing along an active volcano and your car is on fire. It's a really exciting arcade racing game. One of my favorite things about it too, and was very impressive at the time, was just how many other computer-controlled opponents are in the same race as you. It was, again, very impressive technically at the time, and again, I still think it holds up today. You know, it's funny, as I was capturing the footage here, I was reminded of a more modern game that plays very similar to this, and it's Forza Horizon. Now, in Forza Horizon, you are going to be playing that on an Xbox because that is owned by Microsoft. And it's definitely a different vibe when it comes to the levels. In Forza Horizon, it's a realistic open world, where in Motorstorm, they are sculpted and, you know, perfectly programmed and designed levels. And while I like Forza Horizon, it's a great series, coming back to Motorstorm, I actually really kind of missed the great level design that they have here. It's just a little bit more fantastical. It's a little bit more, like I said, sculpted. It's very specific in its design, and I don't know, I can kind of appreciate that. I like both. And so it's an arcade racing franchise that I think would benefit greatly from the PlayStation 5's power. I think it would be a good showcase for it. And again, I just kind of miss it. I think it'd be cool to bring it back. So anyways, guys, that is 5 gaming franchises that I would love to see resurrected and brought back to life on the PlayStation 5. But there are so many more that we could talk about, including, what about Siphon Filter, Ape Escape? I was thinking it'd be really cool to get another Rogue Galaxy game. What about Mark of Kree? I'd love to see a second Journey game. I thought that would be pretty interesting. What about a new Sly Cooper game? Or we could get really obscure and say like a Pursuit Force, Downhill Domination, War of Monsters. Man, there are just so many possibilities. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.